Hi, this week we're using and learning about CSS animations. That's how we can use CSS to move things around and change how things look and change a variety of styles on elements in the HTML. And a fun way to learn about these properties and how they work is to tell a story. Our stories are going to be really simple and the animations are going to be very simplistic, but they help us to learn all of the properties and see how they work. So the story we're going to tell is about a cabbage that grows. The farmer watches it grow, thinks everything's fine, turns around and leaves. And as soon as he turns around, the rabbit comes, starts eating the cabbage, and it gets smaller. And then the farmer hears something, turns back around, sees the rabbit sees the farmer and runs away, and the farmer comes back to watch the cabbage. So that's the story we're going to tell, and we're going to use CSS to do that. So we already have a div with background color and a border all set to go in a certain size. Also I noticed that I've used the overflow property and set it to hidden. So here you see the cabbage and that image is too big to fit on there. And so what I've told it to do is with anything that overflows that div to hide it. And so it's hidden that. Now each of those images inside the div, I've assigned an ID to them. So we can write a style block for each one. Remember with ID that you use the pound sign. So I'm going to create one for the farmer, one for the cabbage, and one for the rabbit. Now I suggest you code along because you're going to learn this far better as you code yourself rather than just watch me do it. So what I want to do here is I'm going to set the width of these images so I get them the size that I want. And I want that farmer to be 480 pixels wide. I'm also going to set the position. So I'm going to say I want the position to be absolute. I want to know right where it is. And I'm going to set the top property. And here I'm just going to set it to 20 pixels. And then I say how far from the left I want it. And I want it to be 160 pixels from the left. Now positioning these takes a while to figure it out. So I just start with a few numbers and then I look at it and say, oh, I want to move them a little bit. And that's how you get those. I've already done that with these, so I've already decided how I want those. And so now watch, when I do this, it's going to put that farmer, whoa, not quite right. So notice we saw two things. One, as soon as we absolutely position that farmer, it takes it out of the standard flow and the rabbit moves into the flow. And so you see that overlap. But also notice that the farmer now, instead of being 20 pixels from the div, it's actually being from the top of the div, he's actually 20 pixels from the body. So the way that positioning works, absolute means it will position it relative to the first ancestor that has a position other than static. Well, none of them do. So it just finally reaches the body and it does it to that. I'm going to put it, because I want it very relative to the div, I'm going to set the position of the div. All right, and I just have to set it to some position value besides static. I'm going to choose relative, and I want it to stay where it is. I don't want it to move, so I'm not going to set top and left. I could set them to 0 pixels and accomplish the same. And now when I do that, there we go. And now he's positioned 20 pixels from the top, and how many do we have? 160 pixels from the left of the div, right? Because that's the parent that has the most. Or that has the position set. So now I want to set all of these same properties for the cabbage, and it won't be they won't be the same property, but I get them all down there so I can see what I'm doing. I do want it to be absolute, but I want it to be further from the top because the cabbage is going to be quite a bit smaller, so its top's quite a bit down, and I have it at 420 pixels, and from the left I have it at 580. So if I set those, then I save that and I can come over and see where that cabbage is. So there's that little teeny baby cabbage just getting ready to start and put right there in the garden at the farmer's feet. Okay, I want to do the same for the rabbit. Except the rabbit, I want different properties. I want the rabbit to be 160 pixels, and absolute positioning, I want it to be 380 from the top and 1200 pixels from the left, which is the whole thing, right? It's all the way from the left. So if I save that and I get it round, then let's go over and see if we can find that rabbit. See, we've moved that rabbit all the way off. So that's exactly what we want. Oh, they're just a smidgen high, but we could move them down if let's do. They're just not quite right. So let's go about 30 more pixels. So 50 down, 450 and 410. Let's see if that makes me happier. Oh, yeah. Okay. So I like that just a little bit better. Anyway, you can play with them and make them what you want. But you can spend a lot of time getting those details. It takes a while time to get those details figured out so things look right. All right.